Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Ace Attorney Investigation 2. We are still stuck in the past because apparently it has some connections to what's going on in the present, which seems to be a very important thing that keeps happening in this game in particular, if you notice, besides daddy issues. So let's continue on talking with Shilong Lang to see what he has about the SS5 incident. The fall of my old man was also the fall of the Lang clan. The family that failed to protect the president. That's what we became. My old man started to investigate the case like he was possessed. Could someone so driven by obsession surely conduct a proper investigation? Sheesh, you really don't pull your punches, Mr. Prosecutor. Well, neither do you. I don't think I blindly trusted in his investigation just because he's my old man. His investigation was meticulous down to the last detail. Apparently, he even conducted a thorough interview with each and every kid at the orphanage. He interviewed every child. I wonder how fruitful his results were. Good question. Okay, now that we're done there. I'm still wondering why the president was even have an orphanage in the first place, but I suspect he might have had a kid. It's the only thing I can think of. This pillar appears to be burnt.
According to the files, it seems there was a fire on the evening of the incident.
A fire?
Let's see here. Huh? It says that one of the children at the orphanage spilled kerosene and set it on fire as a prank.
That's a horrible prank! I guess that kid had far too much energy. And thanks to that, we can't make out any of the footprints near the main hall. That is odd and whoosh extreme. We've learned pretty much all that we can about the situation at the time of the murder.
Oh, in that case, is there another scene you'd like to recreate?
Yes, would you do the honors? I would like you to recreate the scene when the victim witnessed the president's kidnapping.
Right, I'll recreate the scene based on Mr. Cameron's photo.
Oh, there's the snowman. I was like, there's no snowman in this particular reenactment, but the snowman's there. And kind of melted and sad. Mr. Cameron is standing in the middle of the flower beds.
And the president and his kidnappers are standing on the road.
My old man based his initial investigation on this man's eyewitness testimony. As a result, it led him to believe that the kidnapping and this facility were related. And that's how he came to suspect the head of the orphanage, Patricia Rowland. Yeah, but in court, Blaze the Best treated this testimony as if it meant nothing. Why would he do that? The president and his kidnapper were not standing inside the orphanage grounds, so a connection between the orphanage and the kidnapping was difficult to prove. That's a valid point.
I see. It's not like they were seen inside the orphanage after all.
No matter how much evidence the detectives gather at the crime scene, it doesn't mean squat if the prosecutor won't use it in court. Blaze the Best had some kind of connection with Patricia Rowland. I figured they had some kind of deal going on.
In other words, you think that Blaze was one of the kidnappers.
However, your father was convinced that Patricia Rowland was the culprit. Your father was a highly capable investigator, I presume. Might he have had some other basis for his conclusion besides the witness's testimony? Yeah, I figured he did, but I have no idea what it was. My old man never really talked much about his case. Agent Lang's father, Dailong Lang, President Huang's most trusted confidant. The truth he discovered was suppressed by Blaze the Best. First, we must find that hidden truth. Alright, well, let's put some logic together. What Blaze dig up? And was Blaze the kidnapper? If we suppose that Blaze was one of the kidnappers, it becomes more likely that what he dug up yesterday is connected to the abduction. Was it the brick? What is it?
I figured it out! It was treasure! Treasure! Couldn't Blaze have dug up the ransom money?
The $100 million ransom. Buried in the ground until the heat had died down. It's certainly possible.
I know, right?
Oh my. Alright, let's check out these things. These people. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious looking nook and cranny. Why is there a print on the snowman?
About the snowman. When we recreated the scene where Mr. Cameron was killed, it had already melted. Its scarf was so soggy, and one of its button eyes was missing.
Indeed. At this stage, it appears that most of its original form was still intact. Didn't the eyewitness have the button? Although there's one spot that looks unnaturally lacking.
Poor thing, I bet some naughty kid must have plucked it off. Although, from a thief's perspective, that kid does have some promise.
Was it plucked off by one of the children at the orphanage? No, perhaps. It was taken by an entirely different person altogether. Do that in a second. Let's examine these guys. It's the president's kidnapper. Let's try drawing out whatever we can from their appearance.
Right, I got it! Their appearance. Their appearance.
First things first, the kidnapper threatened the president with a gun.
Look at how they're holding the gun. It's like they're trying to show it off. Totally not cool.
Unfortunately, we cannot see the person's face because it's hidden by their coat and hat.
And look at that popped collar. It's like they're trying to be all that. Totally not cool.
Their body seems relaxed, suggesting that they had a composed mental state.
They even have one hand stuffed in their pocket. Totally not cool at all.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that's...
Stuff I've drawn out from their appearance.
That may be true, but... That's not how it works! Dijon Huang, 12 years old. 12 years ago, he was still the president of Zhengfa.
Doesn't he seem a bit younger? Though it might be hard to tell since it's so dark.
Indeed, and with the situation being what it was, his facial expression seems a bit strained. I wonder where the president was taken after this. We don't know that yet. However, if the answer to that question lies here, it should become clear when we continue the investigation. Alright, well... Let's deduce the handprint, because I'm pretty sure the eyewitness guy was the one who had the button. Is this spot somehow connected to any of the evidence I hold? Yeah, let's see. I have a lot of evidence. Holy shit, so much evidence! This snowman. Wouldn't you say it's missing something?
Its right eye is missing.
Precisely. And what's more, that missing eye happens to be in our possession.
The button that Mr. Cameron was holding on to. It's got the exact same design as the snowman's left eye.
If we assume this button was indeed the snowman's eye, a huge contradiction arises. If this button is the snowman's eye, what contradiction arises? The location of the victim. The victim was holding onto the button. Furthermore, the button was stained with blood. In other words, he grabbed the button after he was attacked. For example, if we were to picture it in this way, after being struck in the back of the head, Mr. Cameron lost his balance. As he was falling, he reached out his hand towards the nearby snowman. However, it could not support his weight, and he collapsed while still grasping the button.
Huh? That means... Mr. Cameron was near the snowman when he was attacked.
Indeed, at the very least, he must have been within arm's reach. However, it's quite clear that he would not have been able to reach it from his current position.
But Mr. Cameron's footprints only lead towards the flower bed.
Can we be certain that those footprints really are Mr. Cameron's? It seems we'll need to investigate them one more time.
Understood! I'll recreate the time the body was discovered scene one more time.
I'm wondering if those double footprints we got on the right side, maybe someone was carrying him over from the snowman. That's what I'm thinking. And then they put false footprints down.
These footprints should match up with Mr. Cameron's shoes, right?
Let's inspect them again. Alright, let's check out his shoes. These shoes should match the footprints. However, these shoes, it seems like they were not the ones originally worn by the victim.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you'll see the laces were tied up strangely, and the size doesn't seem to fit quite right either. Oh?
That would mean these huge footprints leading up to the victim's feet
Were most likely made by someone other than the victim.
So then, the footprints leading to and from the victim's head, must be Mr. Cameron's.
No, not necessarily. They seemed a little too small to be the victim's footprints. So I'm thinking he has been carried.
So none of the footprints are his. Then, which way did Mr. Cameron walk from?
It's quite simple. The victim did not walk here on his own accord, but rather, he was carried here after he was murdered by the culprit. There we go. The question now becomes, where was he killed and carried from? Perhaps it was near the snowman after all. Oh, let's examine the snowman again. The poor, sad snowman. Mr. Cameron's body was moved. If we consider the button he was holding on to, it's highly likely that he was killed near the snowman. I should take a closer look. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. There is a brick that seems to be missing here.
Huh? There's a brick missing here.
The rest are all in order. It's strange that only this one is missing. Alright, let's put some logic together. Murder weapon and the missing brick. That's easy. Perhaps the missing brick was the one used as the murder weapon. New piece of logic.
Yeah, it seems to be just the right size to fit in that gap perfectly.
Brick near the snowman. Body was moved. As I thought, it seems the murder actually occurred near the snowman.
Both the button Mr. Cameron was holding and the murder weapon came from there.
Indeed. Also, if we assume that the killer picked up the brick near the snowman, and then tried to sneak up behind Mr. Cameron.
Oh, Mr. Cameron totally would have seen the person picking up the brick.
Exactly. Okay, please update the recreation. Mr. Cameron was not in the middle of the flower beds, but near the snowman.
Okay, I'm on it.
This is weird. Now he's on this side. Oh, Jesus fuck. This is a clusterfuck.
No matter how you look at it, this is strange.
All the people involved in the case are gathered in the same place.
Did we make a mistake here or something?
One piece of evidence this recreation is based on is odd. If I had to choose which piece of evidence is fake, which piece of evidence is likely to be fake? It may possibly be the photo. Was this photo really taken by Mr. Cameron?
Eh? What do you mean?
We have proven that whoever killed Mr. Cameron also moved the body. For what reason would they have to deliberately move his body? Perhaps the culprit wanted to falsify the scene that Mr. Cameron witnessed.
And that's why they took a fake photo?
They made the president stand under the streetlight and took a photo with Cameron's camera. It would have been quite simple.
Now that you mention it, Mr. Cameron's camera only had one photo on it, right?
Indeed, in all likelihood, the original roll of film had been removed from the camera. And after loading a new roll of film into the camera, the fake photo was taken.
I see! So this photo must have been taken after Mr. Cameron was killed, right?
Oh lord. That's a new one, a fake photo. Exactly. This was not the scene Mr. Cameron actually witnessed. It's likely that this photo is forged evidence.
Then where did Mr. Cameron witness the president and his kidnapper?
The photo isn't the only piece of evidence that indicates what Mr. Cameron witnessed.
The testimony he left on the answering machine.
Precisely. We should listen to the recording one more time and confirm what was said. Where else could the president and his kidnapper have been? Is it here? I mean, it feels like this is the spot. Or maybe it's here. I'm gonna put it here.
Take that!
Let's try here. Okay, that was right. Mr. Cameron said this on the answering machine because I think he was mentioned that it was somewhere in the orphanage, so. The light just went off. I can barely see a thing now. There are only 2 places here where the lights are broken.
The light by the orphanage!
Okay, could you please update the recreation?
Roger!
So the kidnapper was near the orphanage. Indeed. With this, we've shown the connection between the orphanage and the kidnapping. So that's why they moved the body and took a fake photo to create a false testimony. In order to remove any suspicion towards the orphanage in court. With this, the state of the recreation has changed completely. The time of the body was discovered, has probably been greatly impacted as a result.
Then let's go check it out right away! Preparations are ready!
Since the state of the recreation has changed once again, I should press the Y button and select Change Recreation. Let's give it a try. I don't know what the Y button is, so, just do that.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, you have new stuff.
Oh, you want to hear about the Little Thief's newest feature?
Not particularly.
What? Oh, come on, don't say that! Using the latest feature, we can now recreate the scene at different times.
She just went ahead and started explaining it.
Right now, we can recreate the scene based on the police investigation report and Mr. Cameron's eyewitness testimony. Please let me know whenever you want to switch scenes.
The 3 disasters.
A kidnapping, a murder, and a fire on top of that. So much happened that it's hard to keep things straight.
This whole case is hard to keep things straight! The fire was caused by a child on the evening of the incident, which means the fire occurred before the kidnapping and the murder.
Did you notice something about when the fire started?
Indeed, there's one thing that caught my attention. The fire occurred first and something left at the crime scene should not have been there. What has changed at the scene due to the fire and the evidence I have on hand? It seems I'll need to take a moment to compare the 2. Alright, we're gonna change the recreation.
So you want to recreate the scene based on the police investigation data? This is the time the body was discovered, when the police were investigating the scene. I've recreated the scene.
Oh boy, okay, let's go look at the original location of where it was. Oh, Jesus. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. The blood seems to have cleared off from up the top. That's weird. Alright, let's look at the blood stain. The blood splattered above the snow. There certainly was a substantial amount. It's almost as if the murder was actually committed here.
But Mr. Cameron should have been attacked near the snowman.
Exactly. In that case, this blood must belong to someone else.
What? But the police report said this was Mr. Cameron's blood.
The one in charge of this case was Blaze the Best. It would have been simple for him to falsify that information.
But wouldn't it be faster to just clean up the bloodstains rather than falsify the information?
He wouldn't be able to do that. Think about it. Blaze knew that Mr. Cameron's body would be discovered here, in which case the forensics department would naturally become involved.
A luminal reaction! They would have discovered it with the power of science.
Precisely. It would have been difficult to completely erase all traces of blood. However, falsifying the results of the blood test would be much easier in comparison. He would just have to switch the results from the forensic reports.
Aw, what a bummer. Knowing those documents I read were falsified. It looks like Mr. Cameron's clothes were completely soaked in blood.
If the blood scattered here got onto Cameron's clothes, that would mean at the time the bloodstains here had not dried yet.
I see, so then this certain somebody's blood was splattered here just a short while before Mr. Cameron was murdered.
Oh shit! Like, the president? Indeed, that's exactly right. However, if that's the case, wouldn't a new contradiction arise in this recreation? Well, the only other person that was standing there was the president who had a gun pointed at him, so... Is this spot somehow connected to any of the evidence I hold? Probably, if I have it already. Let's put it with the fire. This is a clear contradiction.
Huh? You mean this bloodstain?
Do you see how this bloodstain is broken up by the remains of the fire? This is proof that the fire occurred after the blood had scattered around the area.
Huh? But I thought the fire occurred before the murder.
It seems that information is suspect as well. If the fire had broken out after the murder, then the child who started the fire should have seen the body and the bloodstains. Why then did they not come forward as a witness? It's likely that would have put Blaze at a great disadvantage. Guess we'll need to investigate this fire in more detail. Hey, you! Yes, sir! There should be some records of the fire in the police department under a different case file. I want you to bring me every last investigation report about the fire. Understood, Shifu! Oh, and one more thing. What is it, sir? Contact the House of Lang in Zhangfa. There should be evidence from this case in my old man's room. What do you mean? I just remembered. Why, I recognize this scene. A long time ago, I saw a picture in my old man's room. It was a drawing resembling the scene. What did you say? However, I think it looked like something a child drew. A child. Then the artist may have been the culprit behind the fire. It should still be somewhere in my old man's room. Have them send it over here. Understood, sir. Investigation complete! Whew. Shifu, I'm back! And back to reality, too. I brought the info on the fire the kid started, and a photo of the drawing in your father's office. Also, oh, I've been waiting for this. Hurry up and hand him over. The information held by Ancient Lang's father. Is that Sir Hondogen with his dog? This is it. It's exactly what I remembered. This was the picture drawn by the child depicting the night of the incident.
It sure looks like it was drawn with a child's touch.
As I thought, the one who drew this is most likely the child who started the fire. Oh, Sir Hondogen was involved! Did he assassinate the president? Shifu, well then who's this president? What now? Sorry, but it's gotta have to wait. Hey, Mr. Prosecutor. Why do you think my old man had this? Perhaps he obtained it during the course of his investigation into the incident. Although I don't know why he would have concealed it. Ancient Lang, might I be able to see the details of the fire? Yeah, sure. Allow me to read it post-haste. The boy who started the fire snuck out of bed on the night of the incident. It seems this boy went missing several days later. What? Don't tell me that he witnessed something he shouldn't have.
That's horrible! He was only a child, after all.
Well, I hate for that to be the case. We can't rule out the possibility entirely. Huh? Apparently, the boy left some stuff behind at the orphanage, and it was taken as evidence. What's this? What's that doing here? Mr. Prosecutor, do you recognize this? Yes, I know one piece of evidence that's related to it. Which piece of evidence is related to what the boy left behind? Back to the Mozilla doll.
Take that!
We're bringing back the Mozilla doll! I don't know what's it doing here. But, isn't that the missing horn from this Mozilla doll? No way, you mean this came off the president's? You know of it. Yeah, I've noticed the president kept it close by as a decoration. I always thought it was strange how one of the horns was missing. If you twist a horn, this doll will play back any previously recorded audio. Oh, if we put in this horn, will it play something else?
So if you put the missing horn back in place, we might be able to hear a different recording.
Indeed, it is possible. The doll is currently on the 51st floor of the Grand Tower. Well, let's go get it. Hey you! You heard that, right? Yes, sir, I'll be right back! What did this guy want to tell Lang before he told him to shut up? Shifu, I've got it. The mighty Mozilla doll. Well done. Give it to the prosecutor over there. If we insert the horn found at the orphanage into the doll.
It's perfect fit!
Well, can you hear anything? Mr. Huang, it's Amy. It's been a while. I saw the news that you would be coming to this country. I was really nervous about doing this, but I decided to send you a message.
Please stop the playback.
Judge Courtney.
Oh, what's wrong? Stop it, now!
It's a boy. Your son. He's just been born. I'm sorry. That's all I wanted to tell you. His name is John. Oh! John Marsh! It's a fine name for him, don't you think? John Marsh is the president's son? I mean, okay, I figured he would have a kid, but... Marsh. Did he say John? I'll be waiting in the courtyard of the orphanage at midnight on February 9th. Even if it's just once, I want John to be able to meet you. I'm sorry if I'm being selfish, but I'll be waiting. Holy shit! No way! That was my... John! What's the meaning of this? Miss Courtney! John is not my biological son. He's adopted. Did John know about this? Of course he knew. John's mother, Amy Marsh, passed away about 5 years ago. She and I were cousins. Since we were young, we've always been really close. We were often mistaken for sisters. That's why, when she passed away, I thought it was only natural that I look after John. Also, there were circumstances which prevented me from revealing his father's identity. I never even told John his father's name. And now it's all been revealed, thanks to the recording on that doll. Did John's mother send the doll to the president? Hey, John, was he, the president, really my dad? Yes, he was. Before you were born, Amy worked as a diplomat in Zhangfa. A diplomat? So that must be how she became acquainted with the President Hong. Hang on, didn't you tell me she worked at the orphanage? Yes, after returning to this country, Amy left her job as a diplomat. She always had great passion for charity work, so she began working at the orphanage. Hey, Miss Courtney. So this Amy girl, she called the president there herself, but she never showed up at the scene of the SS5 incident. What's with that? Amy couldn't make it. Apparently someone had been following her the whole night. Perhaps it was Blaze. I can't say for certain, but it's possible that it was his doing.
After that, Amy never got another chance to see the president again.
So she died 5 years ago. This conversation must be painful for John.
Oh, right! Hey, John, you're thirsty? How about I buy us both some juice? We can go together.
I'm a part of this too. I'll listen until the end. Besides, I can afford to buy my own juice.
Ooh, shot down by a kid.
Take that.
John, do you understand the reason I met with the president 2 days ago?
Oh, well now we know exactly why. But we shall continue the sentimental feelings in the next video, because we are slightly over time now. So I'll see you guys then. My old man started to investigate the case like he was possessed. Could someone so driven by obsession surely conduct a proper investigation? Sheesh, you really don't pull your punches, Mr. Prosecutor. Well, neither do you. I don't think I blindly trusted in his investigation just because he's my old man. He investigated. His investigation was meticulous down to the last detail. Apparently, he even conducted a thorough interview with each and every kid at the orphanage. He interviewed every child. I wonder how fruitful his results were. Good question. Okay, now that we're done. That is odd and whoosh extreme. We've learned pretty much all that we can about the situation at the time of the murder.
Oh, in that case, is there another scene you'd like to recreate?
Yes, would you do the honors? I would like you to recreate the scene when the victim witnessed the president's kidnapping.
Right, I'll recreate the scene based on Mr. Cameron's photo.
Oh, there's the snowman. I was like, there's no snowman in this particular reenactment, but the snowman's there. And kind of melted and sad. Mr. Cameron is standing in the middle. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Ace Attorney Investigation 2. We are still stuck in the past because apparently it has some connections to what's going on in the present, which seems to be a very important thing that keeps happening in this game in particular, if you notice, besides daddy issues. So let's continue on talking with Shilong Lang to see what he has about the SS5 incident. The fall of my old man was also the fall of the Lang clan. The family that failed to protect the president. That's what we became. There. I'm still wondering why the president was even at an orphanage in the first place, but I suspect he might have had a kid. It's the only thing I can think of. This pillar appears to be burnt.
According to the files, it seems there was a fire on the evening of the incident.
A fire?
Let's see here. Huh? It says that one of the children at the orphanage spilled kerosene and set it on fire as a prank.
That's a horrible prank! I guess that kid had far too much energy. And thanks to that, we can't make out any of the footprints near the main hall. Of the flower beds.
And the president and his kidnappers are standing on the road.
My old man based his initial investigation on this man's eyewitness testimony. As a result, it led him to believe that the kidnapping and this facility were related. And that's how he came to suspect the head of the orphanage, Patricia Rowland. Yeah. But in court, Blaze the Best treated this testimony as if it meant nothing. Why would he do that? The president and his kidnapper were not standing inside the orphanage ground.